The state of our union is confused, is what I would say. We've lost our sense of who we are as Americans, but I also think that's an opportunity to define what it means to be a citizen of this country, to reaffirm the ideals of 1776. They're simple in that they're not complex, but they're hard to live out. It's not easy. And I think it takes every generation now stepping up to do our part. You don't just get to passively inherit this country and enjoy those blessings of liberty. It takes a generation that's going to fight for those ideals, to preserve them. Our founding fathers did it 250 years ago. You look at the monuments around here, they commemorate those founding fathers. It's up to us to do our part, to say when we see our founding fathers in whatever life comes after this one, and they ask us, what did you do to save our country? We better have a darn good answer to match up with the answer they'll give us in return.
All right, guys, so we got to talk about the Republican response to Joe Biden's State of the Union address. Because the official Republican response, I think, was leaving a lot to be desired, okay? I was not a fan of the Republican response that was given by Senator Britt from Alabama. I understand where Republicans were coming from, but I don't think her delivery in her speech really hit the mark that they were aiming for.
But right now, the American dream has turned into a nightmare for so many families. The true, unvarnished state of our union begins and ends with this. Our families are hurting. Our country can do better. And you don't have to look any further than the crisis at our southern border to see it. President Biden inherited the most secure border of all time. But minutes after taking office, he suspended all deportations, he halted construction of the border wall, and he announced a plan to give amnesty to millions. We know that President Biden didn't just create this border crisis, he invited it with 94 executive actions in his first 100 days.
Yeah, so I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I was not a fan of her response. It wasn't necessarily what she was saying, but how she said it. I think that the GOP essentially tried to play identity politics. Okay, they hired a woman, put her in the kitchen, and made her cry in order to try to appeal to suburban women voters in this country who the GOP desperately needs in order to win in 2024. I understand why they did what they did. I just don't think that it hit the mark, okay? It's not something that I'm a fan of, okay? I think that the GOP response should have been more forceful, okay? It should have provided an actual real vision for this country moving forward in a positive way, an alternative vision to what Biden is presenting. It should have come from a position of strength. That speech kind of sounded weak, okay? I think it kind of made the GOP look weak and helpless instead of strong, competent, and ready to take our country back, to revive our economy, to bring us to a point of prosperity once again in which the average everyday American can thrive. Okay, they're not having their backs broken by having to work so much just to get by, just to get the minimums, the basics, due to the inflation that is caused by Joe Biden's economic policies, to crack down on crime and lawlessness that is happening and running rampant in these cities across the country, to close our border and stop allowing the invasion of illegal immigrants into this country that is contributing to the crime and lawlessness that we're currently facing. Stop sending taxpayer dollars overseas to fight other people's wars and to become respected on the world stage again, to become feared on the world stage again by our enemies, right? That's the message that the GOP really should be pushing, right? A country where we are prospering once again, where our kids are actually being taught what they're supposed to be taught in school. Okay, they're being educated properly, and we're striving for greatness, okay? Because we can't make America great again without making the American people great again, okay? And I think that that's something that the GOP really needs to focus on. How do we make the American people great again, okay? That's how you make the country great. So, you know, maybe, just maybe, we should have had somebody like Byron Donalds or a Vivek Ramaswamy give that speech, or even Trump, right? I would much rather had seen a man do the job of what a man is supposed to do, which is to lead, than to have a crying woman in the kitchen boo-hoo whining and crying about Democrats. Okay, I'm just saying that's my advice. I know everybody might not like it. I don't like everything the GOP does. That's one thing I did not like that they did. So with that being said, Byron Donalds did give a rebuttal to Joe Biden, right? He debunked Joe Biden's State of the Union speech point by point on state-sponsored media with Kirsten Welker, and I want to react to it. So without further ado, let's get into it.
Joining me now on set is Republican Congressman Byron Donalds of Florida. Congressman, thank you so much for being here. It's
good to be with you.
Good to have you here. Thank you for staying up late.
Of course.
Let me get your reaction to President Biden's State of the Union address. The Democrats are obviously standing and applauding. Didn't see much standing and applauding on the Republican side. Not a surprise, but what did you make of the speech?
Well, it was highly partisan. And I think what the president was trying to do is rally his base. But he didn't talk about the conditions of the country.
Facts. This was a speech for the far left. Okay, that's exactly what it was. Biden was addressing the far left, the fringes of the Democrat Party, because he damn sure wasn't talking to the middle class or the moderates or even rural America, okay? No, he definitely wasn't talking to rural America because they love putting down rural America every chance they get. But yeah, he was talking to the fringes, okay? He was talking to the lunatics, right? And you know that because he started his speech talking about another country, talking about how we need to send our taxpayer dollars to defend another country. Okay, how you start a speech that's supposed to be about the state of our union, right? Our union, United States of America, talk about some other country and the state of that country. Again, amazing, absolutely amazing stuff. That in and of itself made the speech bad, right? Automatic, it doesn't matter what he said after that. If you start off a speech that's supposed to be about the state of your country and you're talking about somebody else's country, yeah, that automatically means that you're just not off to a good start. I guarantee you, you're not having the State of the Union speeches or whatever the equivalent is that is happening in these other countries. They're not starting off their speeches talking about the United States of America, the state of the United States. No, they're talking about the state of their country. But here in the United States, we're talking about the state of other people's countries to start off a speech about the state of our country. Ridiculous. Nonsense.
He didn't really bring solutions for the conditions and the crises in the country. He talked about things he wanted to do, but if you add up all of the laundry list, it would add another $1 trillion to our annual deficits on top of the $2 trillion annual deficits under Joe Biden. How are the American people supposed to pay for this? He talks inflation. Everything he wants to do is only going to create more of it.
You're talking about, for example, one of his proposals is actually to raise taxes on large corporations, on wealthy Americans, not touching taxes for anyone who makes $400,000. Why is that something that you disagree with? He says people who make more money should pay their fair share.
Well, a couple of things. First of all, that didn't apply to his son because his son evaded taxes. Number two.
This is why I love Byron Donalds, right? This is why I love Byron Donalds, okay? Because that's a great point. That's an amazing point. The Democrats always want to talk about, well, the rich need to pay their fair share, right? Except the son of the president of the United States doesn't believe in paying his fair share. I mean, the dude quite literally evaded millions of dollars in taxes. He doesn't believe in paying his fair share. But Democrats are quiet on that, right? They're quiet as a church mouse. You can't really hear anything from them about that, right? But everybody else needs to pay their fair share, except Hunter Biden, who they try their best to let him off, right? But unfortunately, they couldn't do that. So again, it's fascinating. Everybody should pay their fair share except, the kids of the president and Democrats.
If you start raising corporate taxes in a time where inflation is still high, you're actually going to depress economic growth in our country, not increase it. And number three, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act that he referenced in his speech has raised more revenue for the federal treasury than at any other time in American history. It actually has brought in record revenue to the federal government.
Facts. Another fact that the leftists can't stand, okay? The Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, the left loves to demonize that legislation as, oh, well, that's just a handout for the rich. No. The middle class got a tax cut. The middle class benefited from that tax cut. It fueled economic growth to the point where the government bought in more money, okay? Tax revenues increased because of the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. Why? Because more people were prospering. Okay, and when more people are prospering, when corporations are prospering, when small businesses are prospering in this country, you're going to bring in more tax revenue, okay, because of more economic activity. Again, this type of stuff, the leftists, they don't understand. They don't really comprehend this, okay? They don't comprehend it.
We don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem.
He makes the case that in many cases, millionaires and billionaires are paying a lower tax rate than teachers and people who are making a minimum wage. Let me play you what.
Ridiculous, okay? If anybody looks at any of the numbers, right? The top 1% make up a total of 22% of the adjusted gross income in this country, okay? But they pay 42% of all taxes. The top 1 to 5% make up about 40% of the adjusted gross income in this country, but pay 60% of all the taxes. The top 1 to 25% pay 70% of all the taxes in the country. So again, this idea that, oh yeah, we need to tax the rich. Well, I mean, to be quite honest with you, the so-called rich are already paying most of the taxes. So when they talk about taxing the rich, what they actually really mean is tax the middle class. This is why when they say tax the rich, they go and they hire a bunch of IRS agents, a bunch of rookies, and they say, well, the rookies are going to go after the rich. Well, the rich have great accountants, right? The accountants of the rich, they're going to outclass these new IRS employees that are trying to go after them. They don't stand a chance, right? This new IRS workforce that Democrats are trying to hire, they're going to go after the middle class, the small businesses, the guys that are trying to grow a business, but just getting started, but can't afford a fancy accountant to fight back against the IRS. That's what they're really trying to do. This is why they also push the legislation to try to keep up with, certain transactions over $600, right? This is what they're trying to do. But then they turn around and say, oh, we're trying to tax the rich. The gaslighting from the Democrats is incredible, okay? If they actually really wanted to raise the tax on the rich, then they would close the loopholes that the rich take advantage of in order to avoid paying taxes. But to pretend like the rich don't pay taxes or they don't pay their fair share is ridiculous, right? So therefore, we need to raise taxes? No, we don't need to raise taxes. Just close the loopholes. But honestly, I think that we should have a flat tax, right? 15% flat tax across the board is fair, in my opinion, right? That's fair, okay? Really what's fair is not paying any taxes because taxation is theft, okay? But that's the libertarian in me, okay? The libertarian in me says flat tax and no tax. That's the only thing that I think is fair. But hey, it is what it is.
What he said on Social Security and get your reaction on that.
Many of my friends on the other side of the aisle want to put Social Security on the chopping block. If anyone here tries to cut Social Security, Medicare, or raise the retirement age, I will stop you. We have two ways to go. Republicans can cut Social Security and give more tax breaks to the wealthy. That's the proposal. Oh no, you guys don't want another $2 trillion tax cut? I kind of thought that's what your plan was. Well, that's good to hear. You're not going to cut another $2 trillion for the super wealth. That's good to hear.
What do you make of that?
A couple things. First of all, the president's gaslighting the American people. The Congressional Budget Office and OMB don't even agree with his numbers when it comes to tax policy that was written by Republicans, which has been successful for the country. But when it comes to Social Security, Republicans have brought no proposal about Social Security. But we do say that the CBO has said the programs go insolvent in 9 years. When they go insolvent, it will be a 22% benefit cut across the board for all seniors. So Congress does have to find a remedy to secure Social Security for the long run.
What would you?
Yeah. So, I mean, the Social Security conversation is an interesting conversation because it is going to go insolvent. It's not sustainable the way that it currently is, right? And I think as a young person, I'm definitely not relying on Social Security being there for me in the future. But the GOP definitely needs a proposal to fix the situation, fix the system. But it's hard because if you come out here and you say that, hey, well, we need to cut back, then, yeah, you're going to lose, right? Because nobody wants to take away the check from grandma, right? I mean, that's obviously not the right thing to do. But I definitely think, again, the libertarian in me says that in the ideal world, it needs to be phased out in some way, right? In a way that, people who paid in still get the benefits, but we have to have a different system, right? We have to have a different system for retirement. And I personally really believe that it should be privatized in the long run. I really believe that people should take care of their own retirement. If you can work and you want to retire, you should work, and then you should be responsible for your own retirement. Okay, and maybe, just maybe, that will also incentivize more responsible people to have children, because, having children is good for, taking care of seniors into retirement as well too. That could also be a part of the birth rate problem that we're having here in this country, in the sense that, you have people that are not having kids anymore, and we need more kids, we need more babies. I definitely think, when it comes to this conversation about Social Security, that's a part of it, right? And in the long run, I actually think privatization is more beneficial, okay, towards the average person, if done correctly, than what we have right now. You're going to receive a lot more benefits in retirement rather than the check that you're getting right now. You could probably be receiving more. But again, that's a hard conversation to have, because a lot of people are ignorant when it comes to what privatization actually means. And again, nobody wants to be the politician that says, hey, we need to cut back on this system, even though it clearly and obviously is not sustainable. But what's also not sustainable? The foreign wars that we continue to fight, and all the money we send overseas, and the money that we spend in other places as well too. Same thing goes for the student loan debt crisis, right? In the sense that the government shouldn't even be in the business of giving out student loans in the first place. And honestly, if the government got out of the business of giving out these loans, that's how you would quickly lower the cost of college, because the cost of college is inflated because the government is providing an unlimited check to these educational institutions for kids to go to college. A lot of kids who shouldn't go to college, really, we're paying for them to go anyways, and these institutions are taking that money and spending it in ways that are not actually in line with helping kids learn or helping kids build skills that they're going to need to go into the workforce. Is extremely bloated, but it's bloated because the government is providing unlimited funding for it, right? So if you take away that unlimited funding from the government, then the cost of college will drop dramatically, specifically when it comes to these four-year universities, these four-year programs that are extremely inefficient, because the first 2 years you're learning general education, stuff that honestly you should learn in high school, kids should learn in high school. But then the last 2 years is when you actually really start to get into your degree or your area of expertise, in which, half the time when you're talking about degrees like sociology or psychology or, I don't know, gender studies or whatever, it's useless. It doesn't really have any real skills that are going to be useful to the workforce, right? So I personally think an idea that Republicans should experiment with is, one, I think supporting trade schools more. Sending kids to trade schools. Like, if we're going to pay for kids to go to school, okay, well, you need to go and learn an actual specific skill. Cut the fat out. You're not going to school to learn anything else except that actual skill, something that has a direct return on investment. We know we're going to get our money back for it, right? Or maybe baby bonds, where, hey, you get a set amount of money at birth, for school specifically, or to start some type of business. It can't be used for anything else except those specific things, okay? And it has to be very restricted in regards to how it can be used. But, maybe you get it at birth. You have the option to invest it in the marketplace if you want. If you don't want to, that's fine. But regardless, the money's there for a very specific use, okay? And that use has to be for something in which the government is going to get a direct return on investment, right? We know that we're going to get our money back for the most part, and that, is going to enable people to build skills and to become positive economic contributors to society, okay? I think that there are solutions that Republicans can put forward to counter the Democrat solution of, well, let's just get rid of student loan debt, which is not a solution. That doesn't solve the problem. That actually makes the problem even worse, because once you forgive student loan debt the first time, then they'll be looking for it again in the next few years, and then you'll have to keep doing it and doing it and doing it, and you're going to be screwing over taxpayers, right? So that's not what we really should be doing. We should be looking for ways to actually reduce costs, okay, of college, okay, and to actually be more efficient in regards to the career paths that we're pushing people in, okay? That's what we actually really should be doing, right? So again, me personally, this is why I always tell you guys, I'm not sure if I could actually run for office, because I would tell the truth, right, about what we actually really need to do. And a lot of people are not going to be happy with the truth, okay? So this is a tough conversation for Republicans, because what we need to do is not the popular thing to come out here and say. It's a way to lose elections, really.
you support? Would you support raising the retirement age, for example? Are you basically saying there do need to be reforms?
Look, I think there's a lot of proposals that members of Congress have been debating and talking about.
Yeah.
The first part is you have to have a serious conversation with the American people, not a political conversation, because the results of Social Security going insolvent are going to be disastrous for everyone.
Right. Well, there's no doubt that is a problem. The question is, what do you do about it? How do you keep it solvent? But let me ask you about what you heard tonight on the border. The fact that President Biden effectively tried to paint Congress as a do-nothing Congress. He said, look, we had a bipartisan deal. And then Donald Trump came and said, don't accept this deal unless it's a perfect deal. It was a deal that Senator Lindsey Graham had praised. It was a deal that didn't include a pathway to citizenship. Does he have a point on that?
No, he's wrong. And the reason why he's wrong is because when elements of that deal were being leaked out by somebody in the Senate, the Speaker of the House and House Republicans said that deal's dead on arrival in the House. You can finish negotiating it if you want to, but if the basic elements of allowing 5,000 illegal immigrants per day to come into the country before you take any measures to secure the border, that's a non-starter.
Just quickly, the deal would not have allowed 5,000 immigrants to come into the country illegally. It would have, at a certain point, once a certain number of migrants were being processed, would have allowed the border to be shut down. So they wouldn't have allowed them to just come in illegally.
Coming into the country, processing into the country, those are semantical phrases. The reality is it's an overwhelming number for the American people. We can't do that.
Facts. She is playing semantics. That's what they do. They are playing semantics. This guy clearly said, yeah, it's going to allow 5,000 illegals into the country. That is the simple way of phrasing what it does. And then she tries to rephrase it and say, no, that's not true. It allows 5,000 illegals to be processed, right? Okay, but what's the difference? There's no difference, right? There's no difference. Now, again, they might say that, well, processed means that some of them are, rejected, at the border or whatever, and some of them are kicked out of the country. But at the same time, I mean, can we really trust that that's what's going to happen, considering how our standards for asylum seem to be super low, right? I mean, if you come to the country and say that you're hungry and you want something to eat, they're going to let you in on asylum, right? We know 90% of these illegal immigrants coming to the country are not true asylum seekers, okay? They're coming for economic reasons, okay? So we already have the laws in place that are needed to reject these illegals. Biden's just choosing not to, and that's the problem. That's the problem. Now, again, I think personally, we shouldn't even give Biden the leeway to have the ability to not enforce parts of the border laws, right? But unfortunately, he does, because the current laws aren't strong enough. He has too much leeway on this situation. That's the problem.
The question, I guess, is why not do something? If this is such a crisis at the southern border, why wouldn't Republicans take this opportunity to do something, to pass this legislation? And just to follow up with you on that, is there any possibility of something getting done, or are we just too close to the election?
Well, a couple of things. First, House Republicans have done something. We're the only chamber that's passed a bill, H.R. 2. It is passed the House. The Senate refuses to even talk about it or debate it. So if we're going to talk about wanting to negotiate, maybe it's time for the White House to look at the House's proposal and start talking and negotiating from that perspective.
As you know, H.R. 2 is a non-starter in the Senate, and even Mexico said they won't work with you on it.
But the Senate bill was a non-starter in the House, so you can't have it both ways.
Let me ask you
Facts. This is why I like Byron Donalds, bro. This is why I like Byron Donalds, because this is how they try to have it, right? They tried to blame Republicans by saying, oh, well, you guys rejected the bipartisan Senate bill, which would not have closed the border, okay? It would not have closed the border. But yet Democrats never take the blame for allowing the Secure the Border Act, House Resolution 2, to sit on Chuck Schumer's desk for over a year. A bill that actually would have closed the border. Again, it's amazing how our liberal media work. This is why I call it state propaganda. Blame Republicans for not passing a Democrat bill, but don't blame Democrats for not passing a Republican bill. Amazing. When the American people don't trust Democrats to handle this issue of immigration and the border. They don't trust the Democrats. So why should the Republicans have to negotiate with Democrats when Democrats have shown that they don't know what the hell they're doing when it comes to this issue, right? And they're pro-illegal immigration. They want more people coming to the country, which is why they're allowing it to happen right now. But again, the framing here from Kristen Welker is what I'm talking about. Republicans get no credit for passing a bill in the House. Democrats get all the credit for passing a bill in the Senate. Democrats' bill wouldn't close the border, but yet they frame it as if it would. Republicans' bill actually would close the border, but yet they don't get credit for passing it. Fascinating.
This just quickly before I let you go. I know that Speaker Johnson had encouraged you all to show decorum in the chamber tonight. There were some outbursts. How did you view this? Did you think there was enough decorum in the chamber tonight? How do you assess how your colleagues
Well,
behaved?
look, it was very hard for a lot of members to maintain decorum when the president just repeatedly lied about his own record. And when this speech was partisan, it was not designed to unite the country. It was not designed to actually talk about the State of the Union. It was designed to launch his presidential campaign. Members didn't want to sit there for that, and so you had some outbursts, yes.
And you didn't have a problem with that, with the outbursts?
Listen, at this point, we just want solutions for the country, and that did not occur tonight.
All right. Congressman Byron.
Facts. Again, it's amazing how they want to talk about decorum, but, you know, when Trump was president, Nancy Pelosi tore up the speech after Trump's speech, which is the most disrespectful thing that you could possibly do, but yet y'all want to sit around and talk about decorum, right? Again, when Democrats act up after Trump's State of the Union address, oh, we ain't got nothing to say about it, right? Totally fine, totally okay. Oh, let Marjorie Taylor Greene do a little bit of heckling. Okay, oh, that's a problem. Let a Gold Star dad do some heckling. They're arresting that guy, right? Arresting him, throwing him in jail. Amazing. The double standard is absolutely amazing. Let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.